go, dogs, let's go! Down the dog.
Planet Earth. This giant blue-green marble spins around an even bigger ball of fire while travelling through a vast expanse of nothing that's also probably something at thousands of miles per hour. And at the same time, it also manages to be home to the most fucked up array of organisms I think we'll ever see in the entire universe. Now you might be thinking, is this guy really qualified to tell me about animals? Well, let me clear those worries right up. I am in the third year of my university degree doing zoology, which practically makes me Charles Darwin 2.0. Although he wasn't setting the bar very high, the only notable thing he had to say about the Galapagos tortoise in his expedition journals was that it tasted delicious while cooked in its shell. Now, one of the first things I want to tell you about is jellyfish. You know, those shiny plastic bags in the sea that hurt like a bitch when you touch them? Yeah, those assholes. Well, besides being able to split in two and essentially give birth to a friend, many jellyfish also start off their life as a plant, called a polyp. They'll then spend some time soaking up that sand juice before eventually a piece of it just pops off and floats away. Now, I recognise you probably heard what I just said, but I'm not sure you're entirely understanding how fucked up it is. So let me paint a picture. You're walking down the street when all of a sudden a dandelion shoots out the ground, stings you in the ass and flies away. That's the life of a fish. Have some sympathy. Speaking of fish, did you know that the Atlantic cod is classed as a vulnerable species? Now this is probably more for the British people out there, but that means every time you have a fish and chips, you're essentially eating like a black rhino or a red panda. Because being delicious is just not a good adaptation. The octopus understood this and tried to taste like latex instead. Despite being some kind of strange aquatic condom, the octopus also has a lot of biological distinctiveness. Scientists actually refer to its DNA as de novo, which is Latin or some shit for meaning out of nowhere. They say this because an octopus's genome is practically untraceable, and this has probably got something to do with the fact that octopuses can change and reverse transcribe the RNA, which is a molecule responsible for transcribing DNA. This is kind of like, but also not really like at all, when you go to the gym and damage your muscles, but instead, as the repairing, instead of having more muscle, you decide that you want an extra arm. That's pure science, don't even try and dispute it. Alright, time for a pop quiz. Who do you think gives the fastest punch of all time? Is it this man? This guy? This chick? No, it's not our Liz. It's this little bastard. This clown-looking ass is the mantis shrimp, and it can punch 40 times faster than we can blink with the same acceleration as a bullet. Now, it doesn't even have to train for weeks to Eye of the Tiger to do this. It can even miss, and it can do that because when it punches so fast, it moves everything out the way and creates this little bubble of nothingness, which is basically a vacuum. They call it a cavity, and when the cavity collapses in on itself, it creates like a shockwave which is almost as strong as the initial punch. Now, there's so much kinetic energy involved here that for a brief moment, the water gets as hot as the surface of the sun, making it literally the spiciest punch of all time. Now, I recognise that so far, all these things have been under the sea, and that wasn't even my intention. So we're going to have a brief intermission while you look at some frog sex positions, and then we'll get on with some land animals. My personal favourite was Glued. Now I know what you're thinking. You're looking at this picture and you're like, Jack, you can't tell me some shit I don't already know about owls. I mean, I know that they have satellite dishes for eyes, they can turn their heads 180 degrees, and they're all around wise, majestic creatures. And while I'm not going to tell you you're wrong, yes, nature is a lawless land with barely any rules. But there are actually some good things I learned on my zoology course that I've just not mentioned yet. For instance, did you know that elephants, these big lovable chunk boys, barely ever get cancer? And that's because they have lots of copies of a cancer-repressing gene known as LIF6. Ah, you scientists and your wonderful catchy names. And while humans have this too, elephants decided cancer was really bad, so they've stocked up on a few extra copies at the shop. Now you might be thinking, damn, elephants got it good. But nah, they sweat out their toenails. Now it's safe to say I know some weird shit about animals. But I know something about you too. Did you know you're a fish? Hell yeah, dude. Now, the reason you're a fish is because of a special little branch of science known as cladistics. Now, in cladistics, when you talk about a group of animals, you can't give them a special little name without including every other type of organism that's derived from it. So, since amphibians evolved from fish and primates evolved from amphibians, we're either all fish or none of us are fish. Alright, I want you to picture this. You wake up, and next to you there's a puppy. That's cute, that's fine, that's adorable. Now you wake up, there's a goat next to you. Why is that instantly more horrifying? I'll tell you why, it's because the pupils look like this. What kind of evil Minecraft devil spawn shit is that, dude? Now, scientists will tell you this evolved so that they could have a wider field of vision to spot more predators. But my personal theory is that this evolved so that they could visualize perfectly the maximum amount of death and destruction they could inflict at any one moment. And on that note, I think it's time for some dirty talk. Now at this point, there's not many things stranger than my internet search history, but penis fencing might be one of them. That's right, penis fencing, dick jousting, willy wrestling, phallus fighting. This list goes on for a while, but anyway, this is when two flatworms get together and have a fight with their penises, and the winner gets to mate with the loser. Now put down your Bibles, Christians. This isn't blasphemous, because the loser's penis falls off, and they become a female, which is totally straight. Although, that kind of makes them trans. Now, it's not just the animals that get all promiscuous. No. The plants get in on this action too. This right here is a pitcher plant. It's the Venus flytrap's uglier younger cousin. But despite appearing to be an all-natural Durex product line, the pitcher plant has managed to secure itself some friends. With benefits. Now, a pitcher plant typically captures its prey by looking like a flower. I mean, not to us, but insects are dumb. And after crawling or falling into the tube, the insect is usually greeted by a steaming hot stew of neurotoxins mixed with a little digestive enzymes for extra flavor. But digesting the insects over the coming weeks came to be a bit boring for the pitcher plant, so they came to a somewhat kinky arrangement with the ants. Now, upon first discovery of this arrangement between the ants and the pitcher plant, top zoologists from around the world came together and officially designated it as 2 ants, 1 cup. And it's named this because the ants crawl inside the gooey trumpet, eat the dead insect, and then poo in its mouth. Apparently the pitcher plant likes this kind of foreplay because insect poop is easier to digest than insects themselves. I'm not sure how that knowledge came to be, but at this point I'm too afraid to ask. And that's about all the things I've learned so far. If I learn anything important in my final year, maybe my masters, I'll probably make another video. But since I just gave you a free degree, I think you should go ahead and like and subscribe. See you in the next one.